Just how divided is the nation over transgender issues? Representative Nancy Mace was allegedly attacked on Capitol Hill by an LGBT activist. Here to break it all down for us is Rachel Bovard. She's the vice president of the Conservative Partnership Institute. And Rachel, Mace is over here being targeted for her proposed bathroom legislation that mandates, crazy now, that people use the bathroom of their own biological sex. But out of everything that Congress does, why does a bathroom policy provoke this violent response?
It's fascinating to watch. And just to remind people, the reason that this is an issue is because there is, for the first time, a transgender member of Congress, and this issue has come to the fore. So the fight that every, mom is having in her public school has now reached the Capitol. But to your point, the transgender activists are not necessarily calm people, as you can see. They are pushing their agenda radically. They're aggressively, even physically so. And I think it's a real issue, especially when you're attacking elected members of Congress. That rises to a level that we haven't seen before, although we've seen it on the left multiple times. They attack members of Congress. They attack people on the streets when they feel their agenda is threatened. And that doesn't bode well when you talk about the side that talks about the future of democracy. This seems to be a threat to democracy.
What do you think the future is in Congress on this issue? Do you think this whole incident and everything that's come before it, is this helping people grow a spine, or is it still sort of all up in the air? What's going on?
Well, it's interesting because it's the first time they've actually had to deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. Up until now, at the federal level, it's been rhetoric. It's been, we are going to introduce this bill, or this is what we think. And you kind of saw this play out when Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about it for the first time at a press conference a couple of weeks ago. He kind of equivocated. He said, we're here to treat everyone with respect. And the grassroots response was bombastic, frankly, not disagreeing that everyone should be treated with respect. But the issue is, no, we are not going to use that as an excuse to allow biological men in women's restrooms. This is where you have to take a hard line. If you're taking a hard line on anything, it should be on protecting the rights of biological women. And within hours, I think, he was walking it back, and he said, no, actually, what I mean to say is biological women are the ones that are going to be allowed to use their own bathrooms. So in some ways, it's actually, I think, good for these guys to actually see what their constituents are up against, because, like I said, moms are dealing with this in public schools. This is something that you've had to deal with on sports teams and in private organizations. And so now watching these members have to deal with it on a personal level, I think is actually good as a spine stiffening exercise. And it's also good for the voters to see kind of where their members actually stand outside of just rhetoric.
Now, Rachel, let's compare and contrast some things on the right versus now what we're seeing from somebody on the left, a former congressman, Anthony Weiner. He's filing to run for office for New York City Council, and he was convicted of sexting a minor. Now, I look at that and say, okay, one of these things is very bad, right? And the other one is Nancy Mace is out here. She's the one getting accosted. But Anthony Weiner is just, what? Is he going to be welcomed back into this public life?
This is the party of Bill Clinton. This is the party that has no problem, rehabilitating these people as long as they are on the left. Jeffrey Toobin, CNN anchor, who's done unmentionable things that we will not discuss, still on CNN. I mean, it's outrageous, the double standard that exists here. And it's blue washing, I guess, is one word for it, right? They just have no problem accepting these people back into polite society, no matter how bad their foibles. And I think it's horrific to some extent, but I think it also should give the right a little bit of courage when they're fighting back against basic things, like, again, protecting same, biological sex bathrooms, when this is the party that protects literally child groomers. So it really should give them courage, frankly.
So, yeah, I mean, on Weiner, it is hilarious that this guy is still around. I mean, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. And how is this even happening? But it begs the question, like, why would people not be out there, as Jill's suggesting, if they're going to accost someone, right, or get in someone's face? Maybe it's people who actually go after children, you know? I mean, what a sick society we live in where that's fine, and you're not supposed to mention that Mr. Clinton has been on a certain island and plane, you know, whatever. So let's move on. Let's move on to something more positive. Chip Roy, Representative Chip Roy is reportedly making a bid to lead the House Rules Committee. Obviously very powerful. Most people don't know what it does, regular people, but it's a very, very powerful position in the House. What are the odds that he succeeds at this, and how do you kind of see the scene?
Well, I do think it's a tremendous opportunity for conservatives to just give a basic high-level overview of the Rules Committee. Nothing comes to the House floor before first going through the Rules Committee. So the Rules Committee structures debate on all bills that come before the House floor. They effectively choose and vote on what bills come to the House floor and who gets amendments and what they are. So it is a tremendously influential position. And Chip Roy, I think, has proven himself worthy of the position. He's been on the committee for the past 2 years. He's as sharp as a tack. He's got a great, brilliant policy mind. But even more than that, I think he understands how power moves in the House, and he's committed to conservative principles. And you want someone like that in charge of the Rules Committee. Conservatives have been shut out of the Rules Committee for this reason for years. And so I think Chip mounting a bid to lead it, I think, is almost a statement that conservatives have arrived to some degree in the House. As you know, they'll still always be the minority of any majority of the Republican Party, but I do think Chip is such a savvy player that I think he could pull it off. I think it'll be an uphill climb. He'll face a lot of resistance from establishment Republicans who do not like this Chip Roy's politics, because Chip Roy wants to upend the established ways of doing things in Washington, and he wants to do it for conservatives. But again, this is a threshold moment for the Republican conference. What type of politics do you want? Because Donald Trump was just elected to disrupt the system in Washington. If you actually believe in that and you actually want to support him in that mission, Chip Roy is the person that you need to lead the Rules Committee.
Rachel, last question. I guess it's DC Day for us. We had Chris Bedford on, although we have him on pretty frequently since he is our senior political editor and DC correspondent. But we asked him the same question. I'm curious your thoughts. I just can't get over what a sea change, we're living in. I mean, it's almost to see the situation we went through over the last few years in this oppressive, actually very terrifying for a lot of people paying attention. And all of a sudden, it's all gone. The entire landscape is completely different for everything, in every sector of our society. This isn't an exaggeration. I think it's really true. Doesn't mean we do well with it. But I'm curious, in D.C., what is it like there? Are we through the denial phase yet? Is it still like a shocked silence? Like, how do you read the room when it comes to sort of the uniparty in Washington grappling with this changed reality?
DC is always a lagging indicator of where the country is, and I don't think they've quite. It's interesting because the first Trump election was the big shock. It really did sort of stun the city. But then I think the bureaucrats and the Uniparty got very skilled at sort of blocking Trump, waiting him out, pushing his agenda to the side, sort of head patting it, but doing nothing. This time around, I think the shock and awe is a little bit greater because the base is in on what's happening. They saw what happened in the first Trump term, and they are not prepared to witness it again. And so I think especially in the Senate, in the House too, the House is always a little closer to the base, but in the Senate, there's an awareness that there hasn't been before, that they don't have. The smoke-filled room operation isn't going to work as well this time. It's not to say that they don't want it to. I think there's an inertia in the Senate to pretend Donald Trump doesn't exist, but that's not going to work this time around. And you're seeing it already with the response to some of his nominations. You saw people like Senator Joni Ernst step out and say, well, I don't know if I want to confirm Pete Hegseth. And the response was swift and severe, and there were immediate, meaningful discussions of a primary challenge, and her hand was slapped so hard that she, kind of withdrew and said, okay, well, I'm probably going to support Pete Hegseth. And I think those type of responses are slowly waking the Senate up. I do think that the Senate Republicans are going to be Donald Trump's biggest challenge, but I don't think that they're going to be able to pull off what they did last term, which is effectively ignoring and sidelining him. Not only did the base respond, but he also has J.D. Vance this time around, who's as savvy as they come, and I think will effectively work in the Senate, and that's going to be a big help to Trump and his agenda.